What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Before I get started, I wanted to relay an anecdote. A listener emailed me asking some technical questions about their bingo and why certain features weren't working properly. And they gave me, some thoughts on what they thought it was, and I took a look at the schematic and got back to them and suggested that it was a couple other things. And one of the features that they were curious about was their magic line and why it was immediately jumping into the down position. Well, I suggested that they take a look and just rule out the obvious first, that it wasn't set in the down position, and that their centering switch was clean for each of the magic lines. Well, I get an email back. I figured it out. The magic lines were jumping down because they were set in the down position. And the centering switch was dirty on one of them, so there you go. It never hurts to check the obvious things before you start jumping into the much more difficult or demanding parts of the machine to fix. So today's episode is an interview. It's an email interview I conducted with Dennis Dodel, and he is a famous collector. He's been collecting pin games for many, many years. If you have been on IPDB ever and looked around, you're certain to see many photos which are tagged with his name. He has an impressive collection, and he also started the Pinball Trader newsletter, which eventually morphed into the Pingame Journal. He's no longer the editor-in-chief, I guess you'd say. It's Jim Shelberg now. But over the years, he's contributed many articles to various pinball-related publications, and he's always doing something to promote the hobby, it seems, even if it's behind the scenes. So I asked him a few questions, and he was gracious enough to respond. So here we go. My first question was, how old are you? Dennis responds, 63. I asked him what the first game he remembered playing was, and what the first bingo he remembered playing was. He responds, the first game I remember playing was a bingo. I can't remember which one. At Filoni's Tavern in Maplewood, Missouri in the late 50s. My father would spend Saturday afternoons drinking there, and he and his friends would keep me busy by giving me nickels to play. Next I asked, what is his favorite game, currently, of any type that he owns? And he responded, Gottlieb's Racquetball, which is an EM flipper game. I asked next, did you ever play bingos for keeps? And if so, do you have any good stories about that time in your life? And he responds, I assume you mean payouts. I always played for payouts. Only one bingo that I know of still left on location. Typically, one would discreetly point out to the owner or waitress that you had games to cash in on the game. They would then signal to you that they see the replay amount and that you could then turn the game off and back on to erase the credits. The waitress would then put the cash in an envelope in the back room. We would then casually walk back and collect our winnings. Most places operated this way. Next I asked, what games do you most enjoy working on? And he responds, EM flipper games. Next, what got you started collecting? And he answers, my father bought a Gottlieb Sweethearts and CoverGirl in 1965 from a friend who owned Musical Sales, a distributor in the St. Louis area. Both games are still in the same spot they've been in since 1965. Next, do you have a favorite EM gun game? His response, I like the Chicago Coin Shootout. It has a hologram of a cowboy who travels across the field, plus saloon doors that open up to reveal an outlaw who the player has a shootout with. Fun game. My son has one. Next, what is your favorite bingo? Any Magic Screen OK game. I also like the Miss America series and most Turning Corners games. Gaiety and Surf Club and United's Caravan are also favorites. What's your favorite bingo feature? He responds, the Magic Screen. And next, for EM pins, do you prefer 2-inch flippers or 3-inch flippers? He responds, I have no preference, which is a good answer. Next, how many games do you have set up currently? How many are bingos? He responds, he has about 50 set up currently, and 36 of those 50 are bingos. That's a very good ratio. Next, what do you like about bingo gameplay, especially as compared to flipper pins? He responds, bingos are a thinking man's game. No fast play. Shoot a ball, then figure out the best plan to get to your objective. So many ways to win, or lose. A roll of nickels would usually be able to last quite a few hours. Next, do you enjoy horse race games, the one balls? What attracts you to those games? For me, it's the artwork. He responds, I do enjoy one balls. I have a Bally Jockey Special, a Universal Winner, a Keeney Multi-Frig Races, and a Keeney Favorite. I don't know if I would have enjoyed playing one balls on the street, but they must have had quite a following as so many were built over quite a few years. It's hard to imagine that people pump much money into these with just one ball to play and not much nudging available because of the heavy console cabinet. But obviously someone was playing them. I also appreciate the artwork. I have a few games that I own mostly for the artwork. Next, what's your favorite wood rail game? He responds, I really like Williams Gusher. A friend had one back in the late 60s, and I spent a lot of time playing that game. It also has some of the best artwork ever inked for a pinball. Genko's Funfair is also a favorite. Next, what's your favorite era of game? He responds, mid-50s to mid-60s. So much happened to pinball in that 10-year period. So many great games, flippers and bingos. And I would agree. And finally, this podcast is a way to introduce younger folks to the magic of these EM games. What would you say to someone just starting to collect EMs or bingos? He responds, play as many games as you can to figure out what features and types of games you like most. If it's bingos, try to find someone who will help you get started. I see so many people ask the question, what game should I buy? No one knows what game you should buy. It's way too personal. Attend all the shows you can and play as many games as you can. Then decide what type of game you want. There are many games from all eras still available. Don't rush into things. Well, that's all, and I'd really like to thank Mr. Dennis Dodel for answering my questions. That's all for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Twitter, on Facebook, or on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.